The next part of today's program belongs to you, the audience. We are having our panel discussion next, and you'll have the opportunity to ask all our distinguished speakers questions that you have about today's conference, or whatever other Sankirtan and book distribution questions that you may have. So whilst they are coming up to take their seats, kindly prepare your questions. There'll be 2 roving mics, one on either side of the auditorium. And if you do have any questions, you can raise your hand and we will field your question. This session will be facilitated by His Grace, Govardhan Prabhu. And I'd like to invite to the front His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami, His Grace Nandakumar Prabhu, His Grace Medhavi Prabhu, His Grace Mahaprasad Prabhu, His Grace Srivas Pandit Prabhu, His Grace Maha Prabhu, His Grace Rajabasi Prabhu. Thank you. And we'd also like to invite to the front His Holiness Ram Govinda Swami Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So while the panelists are settling down, we'll just chant a mantra, keep us all awake. Hopefully we all know the first verse of the Shishashtakam. Is it okay? Okay? Cheto darpanang marjanam bhava mahadevagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrikal. Everybody. Vidhavadu jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanan Pradipadan Purnamrita Shadanam Sarvasnapanam Parambhujayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Hare Krishna. So we want this session to be very provocative. You unpack your mind if there's something that ever bothered you that you've seen in the books. So this is an open platform. Something you're anxious about, something we've done about editing. We don't want it to be combatant, not to that level. But most certainly we want it to be very interactive. Of course, you know that it's rare to have His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj right in front of you where you could ask any question about Prabhupada's book. So that's an opportunity. This conference will only come back to Johannesburg in 7 years' time. Some of us might... 7 years is a long time. So you can optimize the moment, the 15 or 20 minutes we have for this session. And please, don't feel restricted whatsoever. There's absolutely no such thing as an offensive question. Okay? So it's over to you. Please raise your hand so I can help put it in batches and I can direct the question accordingly. Okay, let's go. Prabhuji, please stand up, say your name, which temple you're affiliated to, and what's your question. I'm going to take it in batches of 3 questions, okay?
Hare Krishna. I'm Shamakunda Das. I do some service for ISKCON Santon, but I'm not particularly affiliated with any of the particular temples. I do service as and where. For instance, I'm sometimes at ISKCON Lenasia. I help with their monthly Sankirtan festival. I distribute books for ISKCON Santon as and when, do some service at the other temples as well. So my question regards the formula for distributing books. Perhaps I've got my maths from grade 2 wrong, that cost price times 2 equals selling price, right? And if I understood correctly, that should be applicable throughout all the temples. But my concern is that we try and follow this here in Gauteng at least at ISKCON Santon, that's what the formula that we use. But sometimes our devotees travel to other provinces, and for instance our brahmacharis, they go to other provinces, and there selling price equals cost price plus 1 rand. So when they come back to Santon, they ask us, what are you guys doing with all the money? Why are you selling the books for so much?
Good question.
So it creates a disparity for us in terms of inspiring others, and also amongst the consumers as well, the people buying books. They say, why is it cheaper in Durban but it's less here? Sorry to be direct, but Hare Krishna.
Okay, so we're going to direct that question just now, but he's an actuary, so he's really done the calculations. So I'll give the panelists a moment to think about it. We're going to direct it to somebody here. Somebody at the back there had a question? Yes, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna. So my name is Bhakta Jacob. I am representing ISKCON Santin. So now I have a few questions here that I'd like to ask the panel. First question is, will there be any training for book distribution in the near future? The second question will be, when is the Bhakti Sastra course college going to be established in South Africa? Is it going to be established anytime soon? And then the other question is, what qualifies one to write for BTG Africa, and where can one submit their articles? Fourth question is, what is hindering ISKCON from printing book covers that have images that are more relevant to Africans? And yeah, like that. It'll be easy for book distributors to distribute books that have a lot of cows, farms, Krishna, where he is more darker than blue, because they say he's dark blue, but all I see is Krishna that is blue. So it becomes very hard for Africans to accept Krishna like that. So we know that also Krishna is Shama Sundra, so where he is very much blue and stuff, and very much dark. So like that, when you have Krishna and Radharani looking white on this side, and it's like easy for book distributors to distribute. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you very much. So we got a batch of seven questions. Maybe I'll start with His Holiness Jayad Vaidya Maharaj. On these covers, the question about covers on the book, the pictures, color of Krishna, the choice of the color, the choice of what goes on the cover. Where's the mic?
We're interested in having covers that are culturally relevant wherever we go, and it's just a question of good graphic designers working on them. As far as Krishna's color, in America we don't have very many blue people walking around either. It's not our fault. He's God. He looks the way he wants to, so he's chosen to be blue. It's not our fault. But we present Krishna as he is. He's blue. Darker blue, lighter blue, maybe that could be negotiated, but he's blue. Except when he's Lord Chaitanya, then he's gold. Is that all right? Just like they asked Prabhupada, why does Krishna wear a peacock feather? Prabhupada said he likes it, that's all. So that's what happens when you're God. You can be as you like and do as you like. But as far as covers, I'd like to see our culturally relevant covers. I think we did well with some of our early titles where a lot of attention was given to being very African, and I'd like to see us do more of that and do better at that. Is that okay?
Thank you. Next question, Jayalalitha, for you. If somebody wants to write an article for BDG, what is their pre-qualification, and where do they send such an article to?
So there's certain templates or certain standards that you need to write. If you go onto the BTG website, the basics are there in terms of how you would write. There were workshops as well that Maharaj had done, that Jadvecha Maharaj had done, about how to write BTG articles. So if anyone is interested, I can give you the web address about where you can find the basic guidelines about writing those articles, and then we can give you more information about submitting it, about how it would go to the editor to be reviewed, proofread, preferably proofread first locally and then sent through. But we can talk more about that later on. But the facility is there, the basic guidelines. If you go to the BTG website, you'll find the guidelines on there.
Then there was a question here about...
I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied.
Okay.
Are we going to have opportunities for people to actually get some personal direction or some training, some workshops, or we're going to do that. Okay. If you're interested, get in touch with Jai Lalita. And when there's a threshold of interest, we'll do seminars, workshops, back and forth, and so on. Good. I'm satisfied.
There was a question here about Bhakti Shastri course. Nothing really directly to do with the conference, but I think Rajabasi Prabhu, as the National Secretary, could answer that question. When are we planning to offer Bhakti Shastri courses?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, it's a question that I've been asked for many, many years now. And so, as part of the solution, of course, Nanda Kumar Prabhu we've registered ISKCON Santon as an education center. So in other words, Santon is in a position to offer Bhakti Shastri and other courses officially recognized in ISKCON. And in the meantime, while Nanda Kumar Prabhu is also setting that up, ISKCON East London, I've communicated this with various temple presidents. I don't know if it filtered through to all the congregation, but in ISKCON East London, we've made room for devotees that want to get training. So the training goes from anything from 1 week to 12 months. In that 12 months, we cover courses, Bhakti Shastri and so forth, and Bhakti Sadhachar, different types of courses, even for newer devotees. And the reason why it's from 1 week to 12 months is some devotees work, they don't have the time, so they only have like a week, 2 weeks to spare, so they can come to the center in East London, get the training, and go back to the respective temples. So the idea here is really to help the temples. Temples send their devotees, temple presidents send their devotees, they get trained, and the devotees go back like that. So it's part of the solution. It's not the complete solution, but it's part of the solution that we're working on. And hopefully in a few years we'll have a very solid structure where devotees can get the training that they need. So I hope that satisfies you.
Then we're going to go to the next question, is about training for book distributors. A good question for our book distribution minister, Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. Where is the training for book distributors?
Well, training has to take place on a local level, and you have to try to arrange that with your temple president. There are many expert book distributors in each area. East London has Rajbasi Prabhu. In Cape Town, they have Gop Kumar Prabhu. There's many devotees there that are seasoned book distributors, but are also can train devotees. So we have to arrange that a bit more. And last year, we were really fortunate to have Vaisheshekar Prabhu come down, and he was just amazing, where we had this National Sankirtan Festival, and so many devotees got inspired to go out on book distribution. So we have to organize it more on a local level.
So this question about the pricing, I'm wondering, maybe Marge will be able to. The question being asked here is that there appears to be a formula. The formula is that BBT prints, with the printer it costs X, 2X it's sold to the temple. Now when the temple receives it, the temple generally doubles the price, or whatever they buy it from the BBT for. But you see a disparity here in South Africa where a temple might sell it for 1.2, another temple sells it for 2, and that's basically your question, right? It doesn't appear to be a consistent retail price for the books. You want me to answer that rather? Should I just dispense it? Oh, Vibhu, you want to answer it? Because I think the allegation is being made against Radha Radhana.
So I'll speak as a temple president now. I'll speak as a temple president, and where's our grade 2 maths scholar? What's 4640 times 2? 9280. What's 1730 times 2? What's that? 3660, right? So that's the actual selling price of a Science of Self-Realization. 90, what we said, 90, 46, 92. 92 rands is the actual selling price of a Bhagavad Gita. It costs us 46 rand 40 and 17 rand 30 for Science of Self-Realization. So when I look at these prices, I look at the opportunity, okay, should I make money out of it, the temple make money out of it, or I rather get these two of our main books out there, this Bhagavad Gita, our bestseller, and The Science of Self-Realization. And this is how I judge it. And I say, okay, the December Book Marathon is coming out. I don't want to make any money of this book. I'm selling the Bhagavad Gita for 50 Rand. Same with The Science of Self-Realization. I look at the cost price. I said, okay, let's cover a bit of the courier costs. I'm selling it for 22 Rands. Not to make any money out of it, but rather looking at it in a way that we can get more of these books out. So that's how I look at it, not really doubling the price. So, and there are some books that we can double the price with the smaller books, but my main focus is to really get the books out there. So this is what we do, and this is how sometimes we distribute a whole lot of books. I know Suvas Prabhu from Los Angeles, he's distributes the books at cost price, at BBT cost price. This is how he gets it out. And I asked him, how does he do this? He said, again, it's not about making money. He gives it to the Sankirtan department or his Brahmachari ashram. Here's the book at 20 Rands, and whatever profit they make out of it, they have to fund their own fuel for the Sankirtan van. They have to maintain the Sankirtan van and pay the insurance from the profit. So that's how he does it. But the books go out at cost price to the Sankirtan department.
We take our production price and we double it. BBT doubles it. And that's our selling price to the temples. That's fixed. We do that for everyone. We don't go up and down according to this or that. We hold a sale now and then, but that's pretty constant. Now, what the temple chooses to do is really up to them. This was Prabhupada's suggestion. He said, you know, the BBT can double it, then the temple doubles it, but you don't have to. It's not enforced. It's kind of like out in the market, you know, where the manufacturer sells it, and then it's up to the retailers to decide what they want to do. We don't have a rigid imposition on the temples. Is that okay? So then as a devotee, you can go where the books are cheaper, you can go where there's
No, yeah. So could I just make a quick insertion, right, so I could bring this particular thing to an end? It's not statutory. There's no law in anyone's, it's purely recommended. As a matter of fact, to be really technical and to maybe just offer a correction to what may have been said earlier, when Srila Prabhupada came to South Africa, in Kenya and Mauritius, he made a very profound statement. He said that any book printed in African languages, BBT should not make a markup on it. And as a matter of fact, BBT doesn't do that. It recovers. It's really, like for example, if a book costs 1 Rand, print cost, we'll sell it to you for 2 Rand. But with an African language book, if it costs 1 Rand, it'll probably come to the temple at 1 Rand 20. So there's no, for African title books. But English books obviously different. So there's no statutory, it's recommended, as Marge is saying. And unlike a BTG that's got a recommended retail price, nobody can, it's like the ceiling price. But I've seen here in South Africa for many, many years that there is cross-subsidy that goes on. A donor comes and gives you 100,000 Rand donation for books, and you decided, I'm giving this across to Vanity Karma, for example, because I want to reduce my stock holding of Vanity Karma. So that's like spiritual entrepreneurship. See, if we start to interfere with spiritual entrepreneurship, what you actually do, you start to disturb the natural economy. And that's not the domain that we want to play. It's the temple president's prerogative. The other temple president sitting here, the chairman of the National Council, was bubbling to say something. I see he avoided the panel, but I don't know if he has a view on this.
Hare Krishna. I didn't avoid the panel. I gave my seat to my dear God.
Little closer. Closer.
I gave my seat to J. Lalita Mataji.
I thought that was more comfortable where you're sitting.
It is. So, with regard to the book distribution, apart from setting the prices, we do have a set markup. However, depending on the crowd and the environment that we are in and the distribution point, they change accordingly, because sometimes we do get subsidies. Because what you must remember is that when we do distribute books, sometimes the individuals do not have the money to pay, so it has to subsidize from a sale of a book that has taken place. So these things are a bit complex in that, but at the end of the day, people should understand all the money is going to Krishna for the maintenance of the temple and the production of books. To be too nitpicky on the actual price, and I think is a little bit too fundamental. You know, if you want to buy cheaper, go buy cheaper. You want to save a few rands, okay, go save a few rands. You know, that's your personal preference. If you want to, in most cases, people give more money than the cost of the book. We tell them it's 50 rand, they give us 100 rand. So, yes, there should be some thought going into maybe establishing some sort of norm that's not regulation, but we don't necessarily do that. We look at the time, place, and circumstance, and we distribute accordingly, because our function is actually to distribute the books. We're not going to hold back based on pricing and say, oh, you cannot afford it. You know.
I just want to say also, I must kill this demon. There's a demon that people say that BBT books are expensive. A Science of Self-Realization is 40 rand, whatever it is, and the Bhagavad Gita. I can guarantee you, absolutely assure you, that I look at this thing almost on a quarterly basis. I go to Exclusive Books, I see a hardcover notebook, a hardcover book, I count the pages. I see a softcover book, I count the pages. I turn it around and look at the price, look at the year of publication. BBT books are comparable big time with any books produced in any modern, in economy, even if it's business science books, etc. So sometimes we might think a Bhagavad Gita that costs 60 rand is unaffordable. But I mean, really, a packet of cigarettes might cost 60 rand, I think, right? People buy that. So, when you start to discount the book too much, because price in economics, price is the best signal of value. When you fiddle with something and when you give it away, the temptation to give it away for free, the person who receives it wouldn't appreciate it. As a matter of fact, what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta once told his disciples, you never ever give this literature away for free. And then somebody had cancelled his subscription to one of his weekly newspapers, and they stopped sending it to him. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta referred to that person as a commercial fool. He said, even if the person cancelled his subscription, you should still give him the magazine. But on the other hand, he's saying, you don't give anything away for free. So there has to be some common sense. So the idea is to get the book into the person's hand. But it's not that we can do it at a loss or something, because BBTs in the world will not function if they had to start fiddling with their pricing system. Have we exhausted this topic, or does Radhasham look like he wants to say something? Well, he's a peaceful temple president.
So we have a bit of a mixed match also, but generally we do stick to a formula. And when there are opportunities, then we take advantage of those opportunities.
Arbitrage.
Arbitrage, yeah. So we do have our prices based on a formula. We essentially do what most other temples do, which is double it. But we also do look at the market and see who's the cheapest out there. We normally try to match that. So that's our strategy.
Okay. Anybody else has got a final word on this pricing thing, Marge? You look like you're...
say a couple of things. One is that our prices are sort of a guideline, and I know that experienced book distributors, they put distributing the book first, and they sort of average out and work out the price. So that I know that if a book is, if I'm supposed to get roughly, let's say, $10 for a book, the last two guys gave me 15, I'll give the next one for 8. So, or I'll give the next one for 6 because the previous two guys paid for your discount. So it's not, we're very different from a store, You go up to the cash register and you give them what it says on the label and you're done. But because they're just doing business, we're not businessmen. We're trying to give people books, and one way or another. And we have a general idea about what target we're trying to hit financially, but that's, in one sense, our secondary concern. We're not rigid about it. We'll meet that, but we want to get these books into people's hands. Yeah.
Here's an actuarial response for you. The world economy of BBT books are only $10 million a year. I'm talking about everywhere in the world. The aggregate sales is $10 million. The size of the ISKCON economy, the black and the white economy, must be a multiple of 100 of that. So when Prabhupada's time, books were the foundational source of revenue. Today it's the Indian congregation and it's the credit card machine next to Krishna on Janmashtami Day and all of that. Books are not books have become a junior source of revenue, which is what we are trying to correct. So we're going to take one round of questions, one more round, because Mukundangiri Prabhu told me, we said we're going to finish at 3 o'clock. So let's see who we had. Ramuna, and we had, yes Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the opportunity. I just wanted to ask a question about the traveling Sankirtan outside of South Africa into neighboring countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, Mozambique. As a young bhakta, we hear these stories of the previous generations having done this and having been across the different countries to preach and distribute books and distribute prasadam. But there isn't exactly an organized situation around this, at least in that regard. So I want to kindly find out from the management and the organizational structure how these are being addressed, if they're being addressed, and if it's an issue from an inspirational point of view of who wants to go and who wants to do it. May there maybe be inroads into asking the congregations, asking the distributors if they want to, so that there may be some dialogue towards that regard. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ramuna?
Hare Krishna. So my question is very similar to what Bhakta Jacob had asked earlier about the training. So what I find is that after we have sessions like these, I become very enthused in wanting to do book distribution, and I'm actually thinking I've got some books at home. I want to go and give it out to the people at work. I've already earmarked who I'm going to give a higher taste, that thin book with the recipes, who I'm going to give a Bhagavad Gita to, because that's my safe environment. But when it comes to having to go out, like the Lenasia book distributors go to a very popular supermarket place in Lenasia, I'm afraid to do that. I don't, while I'm loudmouth in terms of every other thing, when it comes to approaching somebody, can you please buy a book or whatever, I don't have the tact, I don't have the right approach. So I want our congregation in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, or even whether within Lenasia itself, to teach me how to do it, to show me how you can learn to be a book distributor. So while Bibhu Chaitanya Prabhu said that we need to have a local effort to do that, I want to see our temple presidents coming out and saying, here's a workshop you're going to be having to teach you how to become a book distributor. Here's a pack of books, go out and do it. And I know we have the Harinam festivals in Joburg CBD as well, but it's not the same. It's not teaching me how to be a book distributor, and I want to do that. I want to harness this enthusiasm that I'm feeling at this point. Thank you.
Well, Medhavi Prabhu, you were saying something like this in your talk, right?
Well, I didn't mention comfort zone. That was someone else.
No, you were mentioning, you were saying that in the ISKCON National Council meetings, we go out as a team and...
Yes.
Yeah. She's asking about a safe environment. Safe environment, right?
Okay. There has to be a priority. I could say when I joined, I didn't join a temple. I joined a traveling Sankirtan party. And when I arrived to join, everyone was out on book distribution, so I went on book distribution. I didn't know anything. And I can just tell you the story, if we have time. I met a person I went to high school with. He saw me in my bed sheet and my T-shirt, and he laughed. And he made a good effort at laughing with the best guffaw he could. And he just told me, "You don't know what you're doing." And I listened to what he had to say. There was nothing I could respond. But I didn't know what I was doing, but I couldn't express it. I didn't have enough philosophy to tell him that, no, you're wasting your time, and I'm trying to do something that's beneficial. But I didn't have that understanding or that confidence to do that. But because everyone went on Sankirtan, there was no question of not going on Sankirtan. So the the thing that I really appreciate about Vibhu Chaitanya is he organizes everyone to go out. And in that atmosphere of also people who are experienced and people who are not experienced, then you feel that that association, you feel the strength of that association. It's not like you're just doing it yourself, but you have the support of other people. I don't, well, anyway, that's another point. But we should do it in association. We need to get a group, your friends. If you don't have, many, many close friends, then at least one other friend or two friends, and make an arrangement with a senior devotee to go to somewhere and try to set up a table. I think the devotees from Kenya, this is how they do it. They set up a table. They get permission. They set up a table, an attractive table with lots and lots of books. And people just, they come up and have a look. They come up and have a look, and all you have to do is give them a little information and don't pressurize them, but just entice them, practically speaking, because we know that these books are so wonderful. So that takes some support. It takes a lot of organization on a big level, and that's why, again, I appreciate Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu's attempts, and I think he should travel all over the country setting them up, more than just our national council meetings for us old guys. But it's, if you get the taste for it, and you have a taste, you have a desire, and that's the most important thing. And we just need to give you some facility and some association to do so. So that should become a priority. That's what we need if we're actually talking about increasing book distribution. We're not Sankirtan stars per se. We're just little devotees, and we're trying to serve Prabhupada. And Prabhupada will help, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Two practical things. One is, if you haven't been to distributebooks.com, you can go there and see Vaisheshika Prabhu practically breaking it down into pieces. You do this, and then you do this, and you do this, and then you do this. Very practical and easy to follow. The other thing is, I suggested to Vibhu, he's doing this kind of training at his monthly Sankirtan festivals. So if you're not having festivals like that in Lens, then you can get a stack of rocks and throw them at the temple president's window until it starts getting it going. Alternatively, perhaps through Skype, you could connect with someone in Durban, and they can walk you through it.
Vibhu, while you're there, just answer the other question also about this cross-border traveling Sankirtan.
Okay, just about the going out in groups, part of a successful monthly Sankirtan festival is that when we all come together in the morning, hopefully we attend the entire morning program together. But then after breakfast, we do a 30-minute workshop, especially for those devotees who are coming for the first time, and we get them to practice on each other. And we don't place no expectations on the devotees. So if you may be one of the shy devotees, all you have to do is carry someone's books on your first round. And the real goal on when you go out for the first time on book distribution is, as I said earlier, simply just have to touch the pavement, nothing else. We just want you to go and touch the pavement. Vaisheshika Prabhu always says, half our battle is won when we're out of the gate. So as soon as we do that, we will be successful. And as soon as you touch the pavement and you're looking at others doing it, then you think to yourself, hey, I can do more than just touch the pavement. Then you try attempting book distribution on yourself. And lastly, Vaisheshika Prabhu always says that when one is enthusiastic about book distribution, encourage the heck out of them. So please go and try it out.
The question seems to be why we're not more organized in these cross-border raids. is there some organization where the buttons that were to push, and how do we get it going? I'm really ignorant about that. It's in one sense, it's the business of the local GBC people to organize ISKCON's efforts in that regard. But the BBT has an interest, and we'd like to help. I can't say much more than that. Invite us and we'll come.
I could just say that it's a fantastic idea. We just didn't give it any legs or hands, and we need to do that. Because there are little groups of devotees who can do this. Just 2 weeks ago, we registered ISKCON Mozambique, because the GBC for South Africa is the same as the GBC for Mozambique. So there could be like a bit of a circuit between Botswana, if you had a group of brahmacharis traveling that area. So it's something that's there, hasn't manifested in any practical way. It should. I can't take responsibility for it, because I don't want to, because I don't have the ability to. But it's most certainly something I can ask the Secretary of the National Council to put on the National Council agenda with the Chairman's permission. We can discuss it in November in Cape Town. That's it, Anda? Okay. So can we have just a 1-minute reflection with the panelists, just on book distribution, etc., so we can close up and hand back to Mukundangri.
When we got to see Prabhupada's presentation, video presentation earlier before lunch, there was a lecture, I think it is Los Angeles, 1975. Many devotees asked me, how am I always inspired for book distribution? It's because every single day of the December book marathon, I listen to that lecture every single day because it inspires me so much, especially where Prabhupada says, ways book, ways book, ways book. That whoever's around me, I make them hear the same thing, and then we go out through the day and try to distribute as many books as possible. So find your inspiration, find out why you're doing this, and just go out and do it. And most importantly, first we have to read the books, and then we can distribute these books. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Well, my last words would be actually an appreciation to the BTG team. That Jalalita, I've known her for many, many years, and she's subtle, but also not so subtle sometimes. But that works. It works because, you know, every time she sees me, you know, so BTG, what's happening in East London, this and that. And phone calls, because we have a chairman also. She calls the chairman. She meets up with the chairperson. So I guess that's the type of mood that I appreciate about the, you know, her whole team, the BTG, and getting things done. And because of that, we've signed a few people. So thank you for that.
Those who can go on the streets, it's good to have the table just like Durban, under the guidance of Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. They go and put the table in the mall area, near the shop, in front of the shops. That is also okay. Otherwise, those who cannot go on the outside to distribute the books, they can also approach house to house also. In the 90s and beginning of the 2000s, we used to go house to house evening after coming from office. Everybody will be relaxing. Every day, if we can cover a couple of houses, 2-3 houses, approach them, have a talk for 10-15 minutes. And when you talk some topic related to the spirituality, everyone would like to have, okay, can I have the book? That will also work. Up to the individual, he has to see, depending on the situation, how can approach somebody to take the books. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I think after going through the presentations that I had today, one of the main things that I learned is about creativity, how to be very creative and coming up with some kind of mechanism to distribute books in Africa. Because the way I see it is that, you know, traditionally books have been distributed in New York and Washington in a certain way. But the way I see it is in Africa, to actually get to the local community with books, to get them to take books, we need to be very creative on how we can approach them. I mean, I like that presentation that was made earlier on, how we can come up with all kind of mechanism, whether it is a bookstore or having local programs or, you know, having different mechanism to go in. So being creative is something that I learned, because at the moment, having gone through the translation work that I've done, we've got about 10,000 books. By the mercy of BBT Africa, these books have been printed. We still have to come out with some kind of mechanism, some kind of idea how to distribute them in a country like Ethiopia, where Srila Prabhupada books have not been distributed. So I'm very grateful to be here today to learn so much from all of you. And I think let's work together. Let's continue to be creative on how to disseminate Srila Prabhupada message in every town, village in Africa. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. The fact that this conference has been held is a great achievement when the focus is placed on printing and distributing Prabhupada's books, which we have no doubt was Srila Prabhupada's foremost desire. So they keep bringing that into our consciousness, as Vibhu Chaitanya was saying about listening to Prabhupada's lecture every day. So if we keep this constantly in our forefront of our consciousness, forefront of our desires, if we can focus on it, we can meditate upon it, we can pray to be able to fulfill it, then Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada will give us the intelligence, the creativity, the desire, and the ability to do so. So simply having this conference brings it into our consciousness more and more, and I think that's a great success. Hare Krishna.
So up on the board, you would have seen there's 3 very important websites that you should take a picture of. It's the question about the guidelines for BTG writers, about distributing books on the BBT Africa website. So you can find a lot of information there about distributing books. Just in terms of the comment that Ramana Mathji made, please come to Lanesia. I'm there. I will be your book distribution partner. And even if it just means for the first time, you sit behind the table and you watch someone else. In medicine, one of the ways that we learn, it says you see one, you do one, and then you teach one. So you have to start first, like we say, about getting onto the pavement and seeing one and seeing how the books are being distributed. One other thing is, in each of your bags is a BTG magazine, okay? That is for you to go to your local temple if you want and get a subscription form and subscribe someone up. Or if you're a little bit shy, then at the staff room at work or at the coffee table, you just take it and you slip it in the pile of magazines so that someone will read it or speak to someone. Keep it on your desk at work, that someone sees it and like, oh, what is this? And it's an opportunity to preach and to speak about the magazine. That's how I started, and that's how the introvert that I was back in the day when Vrajabasi Prabhu knew me, is taking a BTG and just speaking to someone about it. Reading the articles, these beautiful pictures. It's a 72-page, full-color, high-gloss magazine with lots of information that's very easy to distribute, very easy for somebody to read. So BBT is about distributing and printing Srila Prabhupada's books and BTG. So I always add the and BTG there because that is my passion. So please distribute Prabhupada's BTGs. Get involved in your local temples. There is a BTG program. Just get involved. These devotees are keen, but they are so undercapacitated. They just need help with their BTG distribution. So please help them.
So thank our panelists very much. And thank you very much. And because we went a few minutes over time, we've arranged for kachoris and tea. I think we made 200 kachoris. There was 160, 180 people here.